All right, I want to get the panel's take here on the latest split within the GOP. Federal budget now set after a compromise deal. We talked about that this week that House Speaker John Boehner defended like this.
The day before the government reopened, one of the people at one of these groups stood up and said, well, we never really thought it would work. Are you kidding me?
Since then, the Republican knives have been out. A scathing op-ed in the Times by a co-founder of the Tea Party Patriots. That was in today's paper if you saw it. And it sums up the complaints from the far right as follows. Quote, make no mistake, the budget deal is a betrayal of the conservatives who fueled the Republicans' 2010 midterm shellacking of Democrats. They went on to say, after this budget vote, our job expands to include informing Americans about who keeps their word in Congress and who does not. I thought, Chairman, that there was almost a breaking of the fever when not only did Boehner do that, but more importantly, we're sitting here that night, Andrew Dom and I, we were watching the C-SPAN vote. We expected after they got the minimum threshold to get it passed that every Republican would vote the other way for political cover. Overwhelmingly, they backed Boehner on this. Yet, you've seen a lot of folks, the Rand Pauls of the world and the rest, say words like betrayal and that they were left at the altar. How should Republicans feel about what John Boehner did with the budget?
It's the best deal he could get. And they already tried, the government shut down for a number of days. It doesn't work. You take the best deal that you can, and it's good to have them out there prodding everyone to go in the right direction, but this is the best deal they could get.
Translation compromise. But do we think in an election year with midterms coming up in November that the Tea Party, the 60 people in effect, will go along to get along? Have we seen any evidence that says this year will be different than last year?
All they have to worry about on the Republican side, like Democrats used to have to worry a generation ago, is about primaries, and not in every seat. They couldn't risk in the cost benefit going back and having to fight a competitive primary and raise for it and spend and organize and do the hard work of going door to door and building on your base versus trying to explain another government shutdown, which is difficult to explain when you're an insider. When you actually follow this stuff religiously, it's tough to understand. Coupled with, in the Senate, the Republicans were expecting a backlash when the Democrats went with the nuclear option, and no one understood it, and it got zero news coverage. So, not zero, but less news coverage. They want to get out of there. They wanted to get out of Washington. They had to have a budget deal.
There are already Tea Party groups that have sworn that they're going to challenge Peter King on Long Island, that they're going to challenge Michael Grimm in Staten Island, because they voted with Democrats in a couple of these votes. I'm curious, Mr. Chairman, a lot of members of your party in New York State consider themselves Tea Party members. Not as many as in other states. But what would you say to them if they're saying, well, I'm hopping mad here because John Boehner struck this deal? They've given away the store to the Democrats. It may as well be a vote Democrat.
Yeah, it wasn't giving away the store.
No,
but by the way, they just
but they say
that's what they said.
It's not that they wanted to get out of town. It was the best. When you only have like more than one half of one of the three parts of government and legislation producing, that's all you can do. And that was the best deal.
But
I think Paul Ryan did a very good
But to his point, can you talk people out of primarying Grimm and King?
You can't talk them out of it. But eventually it's who wins the primary. And I think Republicans understand that we have a chance to pick up 10, maybe 15 more seats in the House. They will be more moderate seats, by the way.
Now, I'm curious, I keep hearing Vita Focella's name. As remember the guy with the multiple families, right, and the rest. Is that just scuttlebutt? Is there any there?
He hasn't shown any intention to run.
Would you welcome his entry?
We have a sitting congressman there.
No, I know that, but I keep
the only
hearing his
Republican, and New York City should be very happy that they have a one Republican in Congress to fight for New York City.
I will say now that unless Michael Grimm will probably get reelected, if he gets walked out of his office in handcuffs, it'll be Dan Donovan or Nicole Malliotakis that run for that seat, and if she runs, she'll win.
If Focella ran, think of all the votes he'd get from his families.
We can't count Virginia. All right, now let's get to the term we hear here quite a bit. Carpetbagger. Scott Brown in New Hampshire is thinking of running, or at least he is more than putting a toe in the water. Now, this is interesting because he was a senator from Massachusetts. This is not without precedent. Do you think, what do you think about that?
Richard, he was the senator who opposed Obamacare and who reduced the majority that the Democrats had in the Senate from 60 to 59. And he was elected by people across the United States, in essence. And so he could go to New Hampshire. That's going to be the big issue in 2014.
Do you have any problem with
and he can get elected
No, but here's
on
my
that
question.
issue.
Do you have any problem with a Massachusetts guy, in effect, just going across the border to run in a different state?
This is the Mr. Anti-Obamacare guy.
I don't care about the guy. I'm talking about the premise of, is he a carpetbagger, or do you say...
Irrelevant in this case, but it's more relevant for Sean Eldridge.
Oh.
He doesn't stand for anything.
That's delicious.
This is a guy with money and ambitions, just looking for a place.
What he's
to
talking
go.
about, for folks who don't know, is this young
the,
guy is running for Congress in the 19th district in New York. But wait a minute. This is hypocrisy. How's it okay for Brown to go across state lines, but how's it wrong for this guy to go from one district to another?
I think your answer, Mr. Chairman, although I probably don't agree, was brilliant. It's a virtual constituency.
It's a good try.
He went from 60 to 59, and it was national attention. The Kennedy
But wait,
seat, the
by the way,
legacy. He could
you're
run
getting
anywhere.
bipartisan resistance.
You know what?
to
I
this
love
country.
it.
By the way,
I love
this
it.
same chairman, who I have great affection for, said Hillary Clinton, who was a national figure, that she was a carpetbagger back in the day when she was running for senator of New York State here. So, a little
She
convenient.
was.
But why isn't he? All right, fair enough. Okay, when we come back, Dominic, quack, quack. We're going to talk Duck Dynasty. Andrew's completely disgusted, but suck it up here. This is just a fascinating story to me. We all know the story. When we come back, we're going to say, what should A&E do next here? We'll be right back.